Welcome to Brookgreen Gardens and the Brenda and Dick Rosen Galleries. Brookgreen's partnership with the National Sculpture Society goes back to its beginning in 1931. Everything that you see here screams National Sculpture Society. So I'm going to take you through the exhibit, and we're going to get first a quick look at a small exhibit that is brand new. This is a brand new partnership with the National Sculpture Society, where award winners will be given mini solo shows for 6 months here in the entrance of the Rosen Galleries. This first honoree is Paul Moore of Oklahoma, a fellow who just received the Medal of Honor from the National Sculpture Society. And we have 4 of his works on view here for all of our visitors to enjoy. Beverly Davis received her BA in Art Education at Glassboro State College and studied the figure at Fleischer Art Memorial, where she received the Augusta Powell Award, first prize in sculpture. As a graduate of the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, she won the Ward Prize in Sculpture and the Crescent Memorial Travel Scholarship, and she was a 2-time recipient of the Stimson Prize in Sculpture. Recent honors include the Juror's Choice Award at Academy Center of the Arts in Lynchburg, Virginia, Best of Show at the St. Augustine Nature and Wildlife Exposition, and the People's Choice Award of the National Sculpture Society's 84th Annual Awards Exhibition. She says of this sculpture, "Behold this sacred vessel, luminous dream bearer, born of blessings and grace. From earth we arise, ephemeral yet eternally precious gift for the fearless who dare to endure fragility. Have courage to create and be who you are. Love your own beauty, alive, newborn." Colorado artist Patti Stashkar developed an early interest in art but spent 10 years in the corporate world before she pursued sculpture as a profession. She studied wood carving with Mike Ballas and apprenticed with Gerald Balsier, becoming proficient in wood and marble carving and modeling in clay for bronze. Today she's a member of the Academic Artists Association, Allied Artists of America, Society of Animal Artists, and the National Sculpture Society. Her sculptures are part of the permanent collections of the Hiram Blauvelt Museum, Wildlife Experience Museum, Gillette Sculpture Walk, and the Hearst City and County Building. She writes, "As we stroll along the waterways, we often come across birds being birds in the natural way of things, frolicking, squabbling, mating, and resting, all part of the waterways." In 2009, after working in the foundry business and overseeing the creation and placement of hundreds of sculptures and monumental bronzes for 25 years, Timothy Nemo decided to focus on his own sculpture career. Today, his work expresses his love for animals, nature, and the great artists of the past. Among his honors are the Award of Excellence from the Society of Animal Artists and the Marilyn Newmark Memorial Award from National Sculpture Society. In 2019, he became an elected member of the Society. He says, "What if we were able to see a constellation floating in space? Imagine the figure of Orion with the drawn lines still there, but these with stars and lines represented in 3 dimensions. I created my own stag constellation with this in mind. This piece represents my drawing of this stag sky spirit in solid form, with pearls as stars and black bronze as the spirit. Born in Venezuela to Italian parents, Dora Nutella was raised and educated in Italy. She studied figurative sculpture at the Academy of Fine Arts in Naples before moving to the United States. In 1997, Nutella earned the Fulbright Award, which allowed her to help develop art programs at the School of Visual Arts at the University of the Andes in Merida, Venezuela. She is the recipient of NSS's Alex J. Edel Grant and became a fellow in 2016. She's an associate professor of sculpture at Indiana University, South Bend. She says, one team is the original model for a bronze monument titled Spirit of Indiana that was commissioned by Indiana University Bloomington. The 4,830-pound sculpture was installed in the spring of 2021 on the campus of IU Bloomington. The sculpture features 5 young student athletes coming together in a huddle before taking the field of competition. This diverse group embodies the concept of team over self, while capturing the individual features and body language of each individual athlete. Adept in three-dimensional and relief modeling, Eugene Stobb has enjoyed a career as a figure sculptor and as a medallic artist. In the last 30 years, Stobb has created over 40 major monuments in the United States, including the Rosa Parks Memorial and Statuary Hall of the U.S. Capitol. In 1991, he won the Saltus Award from the American Numismatic Society and the Gold Medal from the American Numismatic Association. Stobb served as president of the American Medallic Sculpture Association and is a board member and fellow of National Sculpture Society. He is exhibited in numerous NSS shows and is the recipient of the Society's Medal of Honor and the Henry Herring Art and Architecture Award. He says, when John Lewis died, I wanted to do an homage to him. Cardboard is a material I have been wanting to challenge myself with, mostly because I wanted to deny my facility with clay. I knew that by fabrication I would get a very different look and result. Also, the fact that the original would be the final product was appealing. A commercial artist for over 25 years, Craig Campbell's work has been commissioned by zoos, theming companies, and the film industry for the movies The Hobbit, Elysium, and Mad Max. In 2015, he was a featured artist in the History Channel's reality television series, Monument Guys. His public monuments include Harry Houdini in Wisconsin, General Tom Stafford in Oklahoma, Harry S. Truman, also in Oklahoma, Over the Moon in Arkansas, and Into the Wind in Colorado. Campbell is an elected member of the NSS and of the National Sculptors Guild. He says, this sculpture is inspired by Paul Simon's song, The Boxer. This piece depicts a worn and weathered fighter near collapse, but the fire in his soul and his strength of will won't let him quit as he steps back into the fray. Canadian artist Linda Lindsay's artistic journey began in California, where she earned a fine arts degree at California State University, Fresno. While there, she immersed herself in the study of anatomy and began sculpting the human figure. She has taught high school and college level art and now teaches advanced sculpture technique and anatomy in Canada and Italy. Her bronze and terracotta works have been widely exhibited in the western United States and Canada. Lindsay is a founding member and past president of the Vancouver Island Sculptors Guild and a senior member of the Federation of Canadian Artists. She says, Makotso symbolizes the generations of people who have come to and have been part of shaping our country. Representing their dreams for a brighter future, she likewise embodies our shared hope of universal peace for all who are now part of our world and for those who continue to join it. The birth of my model, Makotso, reconciled a family rift. Her name, given by her grandfather in Lesotho, reveals the promise of healing, as Makotso means Mother of Peace. NSS elected member Jacqueline is a native of the San Francisco Bay Area. She received her BFA from CSU Chico and more recently their Distinguished Alumni Award in Arts and Humanities. After a brief career in scientific illustration, she returned to her love of sculpture, winning numerous awards in a variety of media. Today, Gefray combines her love of nature and science by sculpting animals, taking endless inspiration from travels to sub-Saharan Africa, Morocco, South America, Southeast Asia, and as an artist in residence at the Ruwenzori Sculpture Foundation in Uganda. Although she maintains a studio in Napa, much of her time is spent studying animals at the San Diego Zoo and the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. She says Edward is the first southern white rhino conceived through artificial insemination in North America at the Nikita Khan Rhino Rescue Center at San Diego Zoo Safari Park. Edward is the first generation in the rescue effort to save his critically endangered cousin, the northern white rhino. Through the generosity of researcher Dr. Barbara Durant, I had the privilege of spending time with Edward at 4 months old and again on his first birthday. This helped tremendously as I was sculpting him at that time. It's my honor to support the San Diego Zoo Global by donating sculpture for their annual fundraiser. Janice Morrow is a Fellow of the National Sculpture Society and a Silvermine Guild member. She has exhibited at the National Academy of Design, the Mattituck Museum, and the New Britain Museum of Art. Her monument of World War II soldier Sergeant Homer Lee Wise is installed in Veterans Park in Stamford, Connecticut. Morrow was the studio assistant to former NSS President and Fellow Richard McDermott Miller, and a Coker Master Sculptor at Brookgreen Gardens. In 2019, she created the Brookgreen Medal, which is now part of the collection of the British Museum and the Smithsonian Institute. Her bronze fountain, The Source, is in the permanent collection on the grounds of Brookgreen Gardens. She says of this work, the graceful curve of the wood and the inherent appendage on top, reminiscent of a foot, attracted me to create this intaglio carving of a falling figure. Only the hands remain above the surface, to be hollowed by the grip of the pandemic. As she plummets down into endless space, the seeming lack of control mimics the helplessness we all feel collectively during these harrowing times. Tuck Langlin is Professor Emeritus of Indiana University South Bend, having developed the sculpture program and taught there for more than 30 years. His work is in the collections of the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, Minnesota Museum of American Art, Midwest Museum of American Art, National Academy of Design, Brookgreen Gardens, the Frederick Meyer Gardens and Sculpture Park, and many corporate and private collections. He is a Fellow of the National Sculpture Society, an Academician of the National Academy of Design, and a member of the Portrait Society of America. Langlin serves as chairman of the editorial board of Sculpture Review magazine, and his book, From Clay to Bronze, is ranked as one of the top books on sculpture procedure and technique. He writes of this piece, I want my work to be dug up in 3,000 years, and when it is, I want three things. I want the diggers to know it is a work of art, I want them to have no idea of when it was made, and I want their hearts to beat faster. Coming from an artistic family, Jamaican-born artist Basil Watson continues his family's legacy producing sculpture from his Lawrenceville, Georgia studio. Working easily in stone and bronze, Watson is known for his monumental work. His over life-size sculptures of Olympic gold medalists Usain Bolt, Shelley Ann Fraser-Price, and Asafa Powell can be found in National Stadium in Kingston, Jamaica. Two notable career highlights include his commissioned Rings of Life for Queen Elizabeth II's Golden Jubilee and being awarded the Order of Distinction Commander by the government of Jamaica for his contributions in the field of art. In 2021, Watson's Hope Moving Forward, his 12-foot tribute to Martin Luther King, was unveiled in Atlanta, Georgia. Watson is an elected member of the National Sculpture Society. He writes, the expressive nature of Congressman John Lewis is reflected in every sinew of his being. This bust is an intuitive portrayal of this expressiveness, seeking to tap into that soul of empathy. A child of immigrants who pursued a legal career that took her all over the world, Eva Maria Wong has only recently begun to chase her artistic dreams. Her sculpture is influenced by the many people, places, and situations she encountered in her previous work. Wong's portrait captures the glancing emotions that cross faces in unguarded moments. In her bas-relief and medallic sculpture, she is challenged by the two dimensions and the confined area in which to tell an epic story. Wong studied with NSS fellow Eugene Stobb and recently won the American Medallic Sculpture Association Women's Suffrage Medallic Competition, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. Redemption Pending is an homage in retrospect. She says, "I didn't realize I was sculpting the inner turmoil of someone I knew until he was nearly finished. The sculpture does not resemble him, and I didn't use a model. It's an image of what I believed he was feeling. It reflects the idea that you can design your own imprisonment, but not design your escape. The base suggests an open yet precarious balance. I wanted a patina that mimicked cemetery statuary, where the rain collects along the eyelids until it falls and scars the bronze with traces that look like tears." Angela Mia de la Vega received her BFA from Clarion University and completed postgraduate studies at the University of Madrid. An elected member of the National Sculpture Society, de la Vega is also a Master Signature member of American Women Artists and a Living Master of the Art Renewal Center. Her work can be found in public and private collections in North America, Europe, Australia, and Asia. When not sculpting, de la Vega devotes herself to FLIGHT, an acronym for Friends Lifting Individuals to Empowerment, an organization she co-founded and whose mission is to harness the power of artistic expression and use it to raise funds and empower enslaved or socially excluded people. According to Angela, Bridge of Brotherhood delivers a narrative of hope and promise for our future, which will be eventually in the hands of our children. 3 little boys sit together on a bridge they have built together as youngsters, having already established the relationships that will carry them forward as they grow into a world they will share as equals. The bridge is made to look like it was constructed by the little boys themselves, with twigs and tree branches that are extended across 2 tall mounds of rocks covered in moss. The branches are bound together with twine. The boys' little legs dangle over the edge with their knobby knees on top of one another's, and their arms are around each other's shoulders. Their faces are beautiful, full of wonder and innocence. They are unafraid. Born in Staffordshire, England, Kate Brockman now calls Philadelphia her home. She studied sculpture at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, graduating in 1991, and apprenticed with NSS fellow Evangelos Frydakis. Today, she's part of the sculpture faculty at the Academy, teaching figure modeling and foundry. A 2-time recipient of the Elizabeth Greenshields Foundation grant, she won the Alex J. Edel grant from the National Sculpture Society for her outstanding body of work. Brockman has exhibited with and earned top awards from Hudson Valley Art Association, Catherine Lorelei Wolf Art Club, and the Artist House Gallery. She's a fellow of National Sculpture Society and currently serves on the board. Kate Brockman says that Fearless in Fear, a young Harriet Tubman, is an interpretation of Harriet during the time when she would have been active in the Underground Railroad. Made in the beginning months of 2020, as the pandemic was taking hold, this piece took on extra significance for me. As I learned about her incredible life, her commitment, resilience, and courage in the face of adversity, she gave me perspective and strength. Known primarily for her work with the Underground Railroad, her activism for human equity spanned her life. She worked tirelessly for the abolitionist and women's suffrage movements as a nurse, scout, and spy for the Union Army, and as the founder of a home for indigent and elderly African Americans. She's a true role model for all. As an undergraduate, Lee Hutt studied painting in Belgium and took sculpture courses at Mount Holyoke College and Lime Academy of Art. An award-winning sculptor, Hutt has exhibited with Allied Artists of America, Hudson Valley Art Association, Audubon Artists, and the Salmagundi Club. Her work is in the permanent collections of Wisteria Hearst Museum and the Salmagundi Club. Hutt is chair of the sculpture section of the Catherine Lorillard Wolfe Art Club and a board member and fellow of National Sculpture Society. Lee says, "A friend modeling for me brought her rabbit to the studio. She and her ex shared custody and she couldn't leave it at home alone. It didn't take long for me to take to this rabbit, and I think his obvious dignity gave him the title, his honor, before I even began the sculpture. There is an abstraction to the form as there is an animal spirit in the whole. The eyes and the ears speak. The feet insist on grounding. The color is simply beautiful." With his background in biology and ecology, Bryce Pettis' sculpture explores wildlife and its precarious place in the natural world. A sculptor for over 20 years, Pettit has exhibited extensively around the United States, and his public monuments can be found at the Tulsa International Airport, the Maritime Museum in Ludington, Michigan, and the Naina Kai Botanical Gardens in Hawaii. In 2015, his high-relief sport fishing was installed at the Port of Ludington, Michigan, and in 2016, Pettit's installation of 1,234 butterflies took first place in the installation category at Art Prize 8 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He says, "Art is alchemy. Raw materials are refined into bronze, inanimate clay manipulated to create form shaped to evoke movement and feeling, ideas transformed from thought into physical objects. There is magic in creating sculpture capable of communicating emotion, beauty, or story. This is the elusive spark that I aspire to hold." Joe Palmer's nearly 2 decades in foundry work has not only taught him all aspects of the bronze casting process, but has put him in close contact with some of the world's most renowned sculptors and their masterpieces. Although not formally educated in art, he has studied with the sculptors Dennis Smith, Craig Varner, and NSS fellow Blair Buswell. His on-the-job experience has given him a critical eye, but his sculptures allow him to express himself in a way his foundry work does not allow. Through his work, he sees questions and hopes the viewer asks a few of their own. Palmer has exhibited in local shows in his native state of Utah. This is his first time exhibiting with National Sculpture Society, and he did not offer an artist statement, so it's up to you to decide what this is about. Jim Green's bronze sculptures originate from his time growing up in South Dakota. While his work life was spent in industrial workshops, much of his free time was spent in the outdoors, nurturing a deep love of nature. As a young man, he experimented in various forms and subject matter, but always returned to wildlife sculpture. Birds are a perfect expression of his desire to protect the beauty that sustains us. Jim personally completes each edition's metal finishing and patina, highlighting the work and its subtleties and enhancing the story told by each piece. His work is found in juried art shows, galleries, and private collections across the country and abroad. He writes, "The fastest animal on Earth, the peregrine falcon, has a dive called a stoop that can reach speeds of 200 miles per hour. This dynamic representation shows a flight adjustment just before she stoops on her prey. Dauntless depicts a raptor that, although having one of the widest distributions on Earth, was almost driven to extinction on our continent. Through the sacrifice and love of many falconers and conservationists across the country, the peregrine falcon is now a model of successful conservation, integration of nature, and the urban landscape. This sculpture recognizes the dedication of those communities." Roger Martin splits his time between creating sculpture and product design development for various niche markets. He has earned top honors from the Society of Animal Artists, Salisbury Sculpture Show, and the Ward World Championship. In 2018, he was the Kayamoja Wildlife Artist of the Year at the Kayamoja International Wildlife Art Exposition in Namibia. Martin's work is included in the collections of the Ward Museum of Wildlife Art, and this sculpture, Circumstantial Evidence, is at the Lee Yawkey Woodson Art Museum. Martin is a signature member of the Society of Animal Artists and a fellow of National Sculpture Society. He writes, "Alas, poor fox, branded through history as the trickster, the sly one. Do not judge him, for after all, someone had to play the fox. Catherine Benson is a sculptor born and raised in Buena Vista, Colorado. Now living in Loveland, her primary discipline since 2004 has been direct stone carving of one-of-a-kind delicate botanical works. She regularly shows with American women artists, Artists of the West, and in 2019 was included in National Sculpture Society's 86th Annual Awards Exhibition. In recent years, her work has been shown at the Colorado Governor's Show and Sale in Loveland, and her two-person show, Flora and Fauna, was held at the Loveland Museum. For the past 6 years, Benson has participated with Sculpture in the Park, and her work is on permanent display at the Idaho Botanical Gardens in Boise. She writes, "Oyster mushrooms is everything good about walking in the forest. The velvety, delicate wonders smell of earth and woods and seem to glow from within. Hunting these lovelies in the woods is all the excitement of a treasure hunt, with the awe of finding something astonishingly beautiful at the end." Agata alabaster was the perfect choice for this sculpture, as the color and texture gave me the qualities I was looking for. It even had a rough texture on one surface that resembled bark. Sometimes stone gives you surprising gifts, and this one was a joy to carve. Missouri artist Gary Stobb produces natural history and prehistoric life sculpture for museums, the publishing industry, and film. For over 30 years, he has worked as a freelance sculptor for the National Geographic Society, Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, Carnegie Museum of Natural History, Miami Science Museum, and the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Stobb's work has been featured on the Discovery Channel and in National Geographic Magazine and Dorling Kindersley Publishers. He is a 4-time recipient of the John Lansendorf Paleo Art Award for Sculpture, given by the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. He is an elected member of the National Sculpture Society. He says of this piece, the Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote, "The aim of art is to present not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance." So I feel there is much to be curious about in the natural world. It is filled with endlessly fascinating forms, textures, and compositions, but I believe the great challenge of art is to reach the viewer on an emotional level. My greatest desire as an artist is to elicit a spark of empathy for my subject. Raised in the mountains of central New Mexico, Peregrine O'Gormley developed a deep appreciation of nature from a very young age. His wildlife-themed work has been exhibited at the Gerald Peters Gallery in Santa Fe, National Museum of Wildlife Art, Birds and Art at the Lee Yawkey Woodson Art Museum, and Coors Western Art Exhibit. A frequent participant in NSS annuals, O'Gormley won the Greenwood Cemetery Award in 2016 and the Pat Munson Prize in 2015 and 2017. His public commissions can be found in the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology in Merritt, British Columbia, the City of Anacortes, Washington, and Lakedale Resort in San Juan Island, Washington. O'Gormley is a sculptor member of the NSS. He says, "After the broken wing was developed from a compelling experience with an injured great horned owl. The piece relates to the notion of how we choose to approach an injury or challenge of any sort, physical, emotional, or existential, and how our approach defines our perceptions of the challenge itself, and ultimately, at a minimum, the internal outcome of its healing or resolution. I invoke the beauty of natural forms as a catalyst for communication regarding the increasingly precarious state of our global ecology and many elements of human experience." A native of Old Town, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Timothy Hooton's vocation as a sculptor is an extension of his lifelong interest in art. After studying sculpture and jewelry making at the University of New Mexico, he received what he considers to be the meat of his education by working with and for other artists in a variety of areas: furniture building, wood carving, restoration of antiques, metal fabrication, blacksmithing, and every aspect of bronze casting and foundry work. He exhibits widely, and his work can be found in collections across the country, notably ASICWA, a public commission for the Capitol building in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hooton has been an elected member of NSS since 2011. He says, having just spent several years sculpting relatively tight and detailed commission pieces, I decided at the beginning of 2020 to work on a group of sculptures in a style that was looser and more focused on form and texture. I wanted to convey the feeling of a person with posture, stance, and gesture, and small areas of detail in a way that was recognizable at a glance. Brittany Ryan received her BFA and MFA degrees from Laguna College of Art and Design, where she works as the sculpture department's faculty and department coordinator. Among her many accomplishments, she is the recipient of the Elizabeth Greenshields Foundation Grant and took home second place at the National Sculpture Society's Richard McDermott Miller competition in 2019. Her sculpture, Little Swimmer, won the NSS Silver Medal and Maurice B. Hexter Prize at the 86th Annual Awards Exhibition, and her Midwest Mermaid won the Gold Medal and Charlotte Gefkin Prize at 87th Annual Awards Exhibition. Ryan became an elected member of NSS in 2020. She writes, Miss Independent and the other works in this body of work investigate the transition from childhood to adulthood as we become socially aware of the judgment of others and finding our place in a social group. Portrayed in one of the most vulnerable positions we commonly put ourselves, in a bathing suit, Miss Independent shows an enviable, precocious confidence and style. These works are about story and character, with a specificity of portrait, clothing, and body shape. I hope to imbue them with a will and agency beyond the judgment placed upon usual representations of sexuality and beauty. There are so many wonderful sculptures in this exhibit, and I've just shown you a few of them. I hope some of you have visited and voted for your favorite to win the Brookgreen People's Choice Award. We look forward to seeing several of the exhibiting artists here at the celebration on August 21st. The exhibit will be on view through Sunday, August 22nd. Thanks to my fellow members of the Exhibitions Committee, Sandy Scott and Janice Morrow, to the Jury of Selection, D.L. Engel, Michael Everett, and Melissa Ralston-Jones, and to the Jury of Awards, Heidi Wastweet, Angela Cunningham, and Mary Martin. As we always say at Brookgreen Gardens, ever-changing, simply amazing.